Hi, I'm Nino Gonzalez, and welcome to another episode of Making Sense. Well, I have the pleasure of bringing back a gentleman that I interviewed early during my first few shows, and I decided to bring him back. His name is David, and he works here with the college. And I'll let him introduce himself and get reacquainted with our viewing audience.
Thank you for having me again.
So go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what is it that you do here?
I'm a help desk attendant here for El Paso Community College. I do our technical support via phone, and we do a lot of the problems with the computers on campus, problems with email. My degree is in network security, and it's something that I've studied extensively. I do a lot of our training here at the college for network security for students, faculty, and staff. I've spoken at various conferences here for the college. And it's just something that I really find interesting and very necessary.
Right, and last time I had you here for 2 shows because we got so involved in the discussion, and a lot of people enjoyed that. I always like talking to you, but it's also scary because of some of the things that we discuss, especially during these times. But, I've heard on the news a lot about this ransomware that takes a hold of your computer. Can you tell me a little bit about what that is and what is it that it does to your computer, and what is it that a victim has to do to get it off their system?
And that's actually a really complicated question because there's several types of ransomware.
Okay.
The 2 main ones is there's real ransomware and there's fake ransomware. The fake one is the kind of pop-up that you get. You'll be surfing on the internet looking for deals for a holiday or just looking for news. And you'll go to a website you're not familiar with, and you'll get a pop-up on your screen that says your computer has a virus, or the FBI is going to lock your computer down because we found some kind of illegal content on your computer, or your antivirus software has expired. And so you'll get these kinds of notices, and normally it's when you're surfing the internet.
Right.
And those come through infected advertising. The real type of ransomware are something normally that you download.
Okay. Now those that pop up, are they going to freeze your computer unless you click on them? What if you exit?
What typically happens is it makes it difficult for you to exit. They're scripted in a way that when you try to close the window, it just keeps either reopening or it won't even let you close it. It just kind of takes over your screen, and so it gives the illusion that it's a serious threat.
Right.
The easiest way to be sure is you can just simply turn your computer off, which I know people, we were told a long time ago, would never shut your computer off.
Right.
But sometimes it's a good idea, and this would be one of those. Just shut your computer down, turn it back on, and then launch your browser again and see if that message comes back up. Correct. If it comes back up again, you may have a more serious problem. But normally it won't come back up because it was the specific website you visited that was giving you that pop-up.
And what they're trying to do is they're trying to trick you to, click on a certain link so it can infect your computer, correct?
Exactly. Or call an 800 number.
Right.
I had a family member that got one of those pop-ups, and so he was a little concerned, and so he called the 800 number, and they had him on hold for quite some time. And then when he finally spoke to someone, they started asking him questions and trying to have him navigate to a specific website, and we need you to input this information. And he got suspicious, and then he got his phone bill because the 800 number that he called was rerouted to a long distance
so it really
out
wasn't
of country.
An 800 number.
So, and he fought it with his provider, and I think he was able to get them to remove the charges. But those are the kinds of tricks they use to try and either get you to call a long distance number or give credit card information. I have some other friends, of course, since I work with computers, everybody, anytime I go to someone's house, it's, I have a quick question.
And it's never a quick question.
It's never a quick question. So, I had a friend that, they would get this pop-up that said the antivirus protection had expired. Enter your credit card number, and then they were charged. I forget, it was $30, $40. And then a couple months later, they got the same notice again. And then a couple months later, the same notice again. And they spent somewhere around, I think it was like $150 to $160.
Before they got the idea that there was something wrong
Well,
with this?
they thought like, well, wow, they're charging us to keep, and it would tell you, oh, well, once you've renewed your protection, we've removed all of these viruses for you. So it kind of gives you that, oh, okay, well, I guess you're charging me. You're charging me for removing something. I guess that's fair. But after the 3rd or 4th time, they're like, this just doesn't sound right. So they called me and I went and checked, and it was one of those fake pop-ups that it just kept.
Wow.
And because now they know they're a target, it kept asking them for their information. Luckily for them, their credit card information didn't get used for anything else. Typically, what will happen is you'll give your credit card information, and then they try and buy stuff with it.
Correct.
But credit card companies have gotten a lot better on trying to prevent that from happening. But if you've ever had an unauthorized charge go through, you know how frustrating it is to talk to your bank and tell them, look, I didn't make this charge, I didn't buy this thing online, or I did, but it was an accident, it's a fake thing.
Right.
It can be difficult and sometimes a lengthy process to get your money back.
And so let's talk about the other type, the one that you download. I'm assuming that usually comes through an email.
Typically,
sometimes it could come through a friend's email, correct?
Yes, and that's one of the things that people don't realize when they click on some of these spam links that they get, where it asks you to input your credentials, and it's appearing to come from your bank or your work or some other company that you trust. You input your credentials and not knowing that you're giving somebody else the keys to your life in a sense. So then they start sending emails to your friends and your family, and it could be either strictly advertising or malicious downloads like ransomware. I know someone who had a mostly completed master's thesis on his laptop, and he was surfing the internet looking for information for his master's thesis. And on a website, it told him, well, this specific software is out of date. Click here to
get the
update
new version.
it.
Yeah.
Well, that was an infected download.
Or sometimes if you're researching, sometimes they ask you to download a PDF file or something like that, but it really isn't.
And it really isn't. And so you have to really view what you're downloading with a very critical eye, or what you're updating with a critical eye. And unfortunately for him, he got a particularly nasty strain of CryptoWall.
And what's that?
CryptoWall right now is a really big ransomware. It's one of the most common ones right now. And I don't remember which version of it he had, but what it did is it encrypted all of the files on his computer. Basically anything that's a document, a picture, and then it put a notice on his screen saying, if you don't pay us by this number of hours through this link, we're going to delete the encryption key.
Wow.
And so he thought it was a fake one. So he just went through and looked for that file, which was very intelligent of him to do. He went and deleted all those files that he found, not knowing he was deleting his link to these people who had him basically hostage. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to recover any of his information off of that laptop.
And so what are they asking for you to pay up, basically?
Yeah, they're basically holding you hostage.
And how much are these amounts that they're asking?
I've seen from $300 and up. And you know, it's very unpredictable because this software isn't just one person sending it. It's available for sale online in, I guess you could call the black market.
Right.
And then you can put it to use for in any way you want. You can charge anything you want, send it to anyone you want. So it varies. The FBI reported in 2015 over $78,000 in losses and $36,000 in ransomware. Wow. So it's very difficult to get accurate numbers simply because it doesn't always get reported.
And so what do people do? Like, what did your friend do? Did he pay up?
No, he deleted all of the messages that kept coming up on his screen. But by the time he called me because he couldn't get in to finish his work, the time to pay for this has passed.
Right.
And now all the files are gone.
Wow.
They're unrecoverable because the encryption that's used in this, for example, when you do purchases online, it's typically 128 or 256 encryption. So the short version would be every single character that goes through your purchase or through your internet connection is changed 128 or 256 times. That's the easiest way to explain it. But these encryptions that are being used in these malware and these ransomware attacks rather are sometimes in the 2048 range. They're virtually impossible to crack without paying up.
Okay, so what is the correct procedure to do if you're a victim of this? Do you
That's-
pay? It's like, I mean,
That's difficult to answer. Really, it depends.
do a lot of people actually pay, and do they get, and
I mean, just
once
in-
you pay, do you get the results? Do they let your computer
Yeah.
go?
It's in their best interest to
Really?
do that, because then it's a legal purchase.
Wow.
So, and again, if you combine ransomware and malware, scareware, the different categories that the FBI reported, it's over $100,000 in losses just reported last year. They don't have their 2016 statistics up yet. So, but when you look at what they suspect unreported, it's in the millions of dollars.
So okay, so that's one option.
Yes.
What if I don't want to pay, and I'm okay losing all this stuff?
I hope you have a backup.
Okay, so I would just have to basically restart my computer like if it was brand new.
You would reinstall your operating system and restore your backup files. The best way of avoiding the problem is to prevent it, and the best means of preventing this is to have an offline backup.
Right.
A lot of people will have Dropbox and Google Drive and these online connected backups, which are great. They're great services. But if your computer is connected to the internet when this happens, it also encrypts anything that you're connected to.
Really?
Yes, and there were sheriff's offices and other law enforcement agencies.
So if I'm doing a cloud backup, I won't be able to access that, even if I reinstall everything.
Well, because you were connected to the cloud backup when your computer was infected, there's a potential that cloud backup has also been corrupted.
Wow.
So it's very important to always have multiple sources of backups. And like we talked in the last show, I always strongly advocate having an online backup because it's accessible from anywhere.
Sure.
In a local disaster, worst case scenario, a local disaster, your files are somewhere else.
Right.
So that would be an online backup. But an offline backup like a USB, DVD, something like that where it has
Or
your
portable
data,
hard drive?
portable hard drive, that's good for if everything else fails, you have at least that.
Wow.
And there have been sheriff's offices and other law enforcement places that they had to pay because there was no way to get access to these files again.
Anybody can be victim to these attacks. Well, we'll continue talking about more of these computer threats, and especially during the holiday season, and how we can protect ourselves in the second half of Making Sense. Welcome to the second half of Making Sense, and we're going to be discussing a little bit more to get you educated, especially during this holiday season, to protect yourselves from these online threats. But I was listening to the news the other day, and we just had Cyber Monday, and a lot of people shop online now than going to the mall or to a regular store, and a lot of shopping is done on your cell phone. And I've heard that sometimes there's apps out there that mask real apps. For example, there could be a fake app for Amazon or for a department store or whatever, and they target you. Is that correct?
It's certainly possible. Apple and Google both do a very good job of trying to keep those kinds of applications off of their stores, which is how you would download it either through the iTunes store or through the Google Play Store. So they do a really good job of keeping those apps off. Typically when people run into problems is when they're downloading things that are not necessarily approved. There is a way, both I know on Android, but I'm not sure on iPhones, where you can turn off that safety and you can download an app from literally any website. And some shopping things may have that option where, download our app, and they have you do it from their webpage. So you're always taking that risk. So I would always recommend if you're going to do something like that, make sure it's from the approved app stores.
Correct, because I heard that, and this was on national news, that a lot of people were shopping and they were entering their credit card information, and then it really wasn't the site that it was, or the app from the store or the merchant that they thought it was from, and they were stealing their information.
And that's always a risk when you're doing business online. There's
Right.
always a risk whether you're doing it through an app or you're doing it through the internet, even if you're just doing it from a public Wi-Fi.
Correct.
There's always that potential for someone to be listening in onto your traffic. And so, one of the things that I've advocated for people is if you're really nervous about shopping online, they have prepaid credit cards that you can buy at most major retailers.
Right.
You may be able to get one even from your bank. Just tell them, hey, I'm going to do holiday shopping. I'm going to do a lot of online holiday shopping. I want a prepaid card.
Right.
You put the amount of money you want on that card, and that's all that can be spent.
And also there's a lot of card issuers that sometimes issue you a temporary number through your regular credit card. So they generate a number so you can use it just for a specific site or a specific
Right.
sale that you're gonna.
And those are becoming more and more common. It used to be that your credit card number was your credit card number, and
Right.
it never ever changed. But because the thieves have gotten smarter, the banks have had to get smarter too. And the unfortunate part about technology is that we're normally a step behind, simply because there's no way for us to test every single possible way in. But when we find those holes in the wall, so to speak, we find a way, oh, okay, well, we know there's a problem here, we know there's a problem there. But that's sometimes a step behind, and it's unfortunate.
We've got to be aware also that we don't have to be sitting at a computer
Yes.
or at our laptop,
That's
because all we have to do is use our phone. And like you mentioned, a lot of us want that free Wi-Fi, whether it be at a restaurant, a coffee shop, a bookstore, wherever. But like you said, somebody could be listening in to what you're doing, correct?
Yeah. Yes, or you're connected to an access point that doesn't belong to that place.
They're just pretending.
They're just pretending it belongs to them, and creating a fake Wi-Fi access point is as easy as using your cell phone these days. One of the other risks that people don't really think about are the games you allow your kids to install on their tablets or on your cell phone.
Right.
I just want my 3-year-old to be quiet so we can have a nice dinner. Here's a coloring game. But you don't look carefully at the permissions that game is asking for. There's no reason a coloring game would need access to your contacts, your
Right, and-
email address, your identity, all of these information, and yet, I just need him to be quiet for 3 minutes. And
That's
so
exactly right. I see
very
that
careful.
coming up. That you're giving that access to your contacts. Why does it need that?
It doesn't. It doesn't. And people should be very critical of the things that these apps ask you to give permission.
Right.
There should be no reason for any application other than your phone to need access to your telephone contacts. But we've made a habit of giving that information out, like through apps like Snapchat and Facebook, and it makes it easier for people to contact you. And now the apps don't give you the option of turning that off sometimes. So, there's always the risk of another company leaking your information, and we're always only as safe as the companies we trust.
And that
with our
happened.
information.
I think it was last Christmas when, or several Christmases ago when, several of the major retailers, their credit card systems got hacked, especially during the holiday season.
Oh, it's prime target.
And a lot of that credit card information was stolen.
Yes.
And that's a bad time to do it. And there was a major retailer that lost a lot of business during that Christmas season, and I even think the CEO was let go. And so it has a lot of ramifications if we don't protect our customer data from being accessed, whether it's through our regular system or through our credit card system.
Exactly, and businesses, and because since I know your show is more on the local and businesses and helping people, local businesses need to be very careful about the kinds of activity they allow on their computers, because I'm just going to check Facebook for 5 minutes, and people want to be nice. Okay, I'm not going to make a big deal out of it, but allowing certain kinds of activity on your computer systems may not be a good idea, especially if you're a business that has customer records, credit card numbers. You should always try and isolate those machines from day-to-day use. You don't want the computer that has all your credit card payee information for your customers. You don't want an intern handling that machine, because if you're not watching what they're doing and they install something like CryptoLocker or CryptoWall or one of these programs that encrypts all your company data, now potentially that information can be stolen, that information could be lost to you. So there's that risk always of when you're doing business online, but it's up to each individual person and business to take as many measures as you can to protect your customers.
Right.
Because how would your customers feel when they find out you've been compromised and you've leaked their information?
Right.
You're not going to get that customer back.
You're going to lose
very
that
rare.
You're going to lose that goodwill,
Exactly.
and it could really affect your business in a bad way, especially if you're a small business. I mean, that could be the death of your business.
That could be the end of everything.
Right.
Just one incident.
And let's talk about some other things that can happen this holiday season. There's a lot of we had Give Back Tuesday and all of this stuff. A lot of organizations asking for charitable contributions, and those can be a big scam as well.
People really should do research on the companies they're planning on giving money to. There's a company, I have a family member, they're very passionate about it, but when you look at what they do with their donations, it's very suspect. But also, no one's going to cure a little girl with cancer because you clicked like on Facebook.
Right.
So people will want to, I want to donate to this society or that society, but you're going through a link you saw on some kind of social media, but you don't know where that link goes. If you're going to donate, make sure you go directly to the company you plan on donating to and donating through them, their website specifically. Don't do it, if you can at all, through a third party or fourth party.
And that happens
link.
so much, especially on social media, because people share.
Yeah.
And they post it, and you look at it, and then you click on that, and you could be donating to
Somebody
an
else.
individual that might not even be here in the U.S. or
That's right.
an organization that might not be here in the U.S.
I mean, making a fake banner to represent myself as any company and then a fake PayPal link is 5 minutes worth of work.
Right.
And if I can get that to go viral on some kind of social media, I could potentially scam lots and lots of money from people. So we always need to be critical of the links that we click on and the websites we visit. Make sure the website that you're donating to, for example, let's just say the Red Cross,
right.
just as an example, make sure it's spelled correctly. Because there may be...
You could leave one S.
Leave one S off or add an extra S, and that
Right.
could be a totally different company. And companies
or add an extra D.
Yeah, I mean, or a dash instead of it altogether, or whatever the correct phrasing of that website address is. You need to make sure you're on the correct site.
Right. And let's talk about some other scams that happen. Some of these come not through online, but through the phone.
Oh.
Especially with the elderly.
Yes.
And there's a lot of elderly scams out there, and
Yes.
Sometimes they fall victim and prey to these individuals that are trying to get their money, basically.
Yeah. And it's very common amongst the elderly. I know, for example, in my family, my grandfather was getting ready to walk out the door with money in hand.
Really?
And I happened to get there. And he's like, oh, can you move your car? I got to go to the bridge. They're holding one of your cousins. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I said, who called you? And then I went and looked at the number on his caller ID, and it said unknown. And I'm like, no U.S. agency is going to hold somebody for money at the bridge. That's not how it operates here. And so I was able to ask, hold on, let's just wait and see if they call back. And sure enough, they called back when he didn't show up at the meeting point at the bridge. And I started asking questions. So, you're calling my grandfather. Who is this? What is your name?
As long as they heard that, they probably hung up.
Yeah, and I didn't get maybe 3 questions in before they hung up on me.
Right.
So, it's very common for them to just go through the phone book and just start calling people, which isn't, the phone book's not as common anymore as it used to be, but that's how they got their number. And so, and there's other types of scams, stuff through the mail telling you you've won a prize, but it requires a deposit for the money to be transferred to you. Phone calls from overseas that say that, you've won the lottery.
Right.
You never
In
bought a
another
lottery
country.
ticket in London, England.
Or they need you, because you're a U.S. citizen, to help get the funds over here and provide your bank account information and so forth. But I've also run into people who've lost a lot of money by investing, because they, especially they target the elderly to make these investments that are fake, are bogus.
Yeah, and one of the things is that it's so hard to check on stuff like that. You can set up a company under a fake name and go door to door selling these things and collecting people's money, and people are drawn into that, particularly if you make your cause some kind of charitable cause.
Right.
I know at one point I had a family member that was giving to several Indian schools and Save the Wolves and a State Trooper Association and all of these things that when I looked into them, they appeared to be legitimate, but there's no way to prove.
And you know what happens with the elderly is first of all, they build a rapport with them, and they talk to them, and you know, some of these elderly individuals might be lonely and things like that. So we got to be aware of our family members, and check up on them and give them this advice so they don't fall prey. And not only that, a lot of them are very hard of hearing, and they could misunderstand a lot of these things,
or be agreeing to something that they don't fully understand what they're agreeing to. And in incidents like that, I mean, I'm not against charitable contributions, but always research what you're going to be giving to, and look at it with a critical eye and make sure, I mean, a Google search or a Bing search and the name of the organization and, you know, the information they've been giving you, to see if it's something that actually is a legitimate, not just a legitimate foundation, but is the money going where it's supposed to go?
Right, and you know, there's sites that we can search and how that money is being used, whether it's being used for the cause or for administrative purposes, or for marketing or for different things like that. Well, David, we ran out of time. Thank you for this valuable advice. I hope our viewers are a little bit more educated and don't fall victims to these type of scams, especially during the holiday season. Thank you very much.
Thank you
hopefully
so much.
we get you back here.
I'll be more than happy to come back.
And happy holidays, and we'll see you on another episode of Making Sense.